This is my Acer S71H 27-inch monitor, which I bought brand new back in 2013. It's been an extremely good monitor. I used it for 3 years as my primary monitor until I bought my Hisense 4K TV, which is in another video. And then for the rest of the time, it's been my secondary monitor. But lately, it's developed a fault and it's no longer turning on. So today I'm going to see if I can actually fix it. I will be purchasing a monitor to replace it, as of course when these things start going, no doubt it'll continue to break down as the time goes on. But I thought it'd be a good little thing to have a little look, see if we could open it up and fix it. I think I know what the problem is, so we'll get to that in a moment. This is an incredible monitor for its time actually. In its time it was quite ahead. It had 100 million to 1 contrast ratio, according to the advertisements by Acer anyway, and a 2 millisecond refresh rate. It's a 1080p, full 1080p HD with 60 megahertz refresh, and it was, as I said, perfect. It was clear, bright, everything was pin sharp on it. Gaming was excellent with the fast refresh, and it had quite a number of connections on the back here to allow for the various feeds that you'd have. You'd have the normal D-sub, the DVI, and the full HDMI. I think it was 1.2. I don't think it would any newer, because the newer standard of course came out later. There's an audio port and the DC in. Now I'll show you what's happening with this. When I plug in the DC port, you'll see that the blue standby light comes on, but then when you press the actual button, it doesn't power up. So let me just grab the power cord and we'll plug it in. Power socket, as I said, is just there. And as you see, the blue light comes on. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking that up, but then when you press, it goes off. No power's going through. So I think it's actually the input power circuit that's gone. It's quite good to work on because of course it is a 19 volt power source. It hasn't got mains power going into it, so I'm not to worry about electrocuting myself. Not at the moment anyway. Maybe sometime in the future. That makes for a good video. If you want to see that, hit the like button below. Or maybe not. So let's get this open then. The first thing we need to do is take the bezel off. And it's very similar to most TVs and monitors. They have a press fit bezel which you pop off, and then you can actually access the internals. Now normally you just press down in between the gap there. Let me get a clean piece of this card, and then you can click off. I've already started it on this side. As you can see, I've opened it up there. So you just go along once you've started it with the card, and it should all just click open. And then when you go to a certain point, you'll be able to lift it and click it all the way around. Very careful, because of course these little plastic tabs can break off, and if you're going to do this to yours, of course you are doing it entirely at your own risk. So we're nearly there. As you can see, it's very easy to open this one. And off comes the cover. Now as you can see, the little tabs are here, so be very careful not to break those when you do this, if you do this. Put that out of the way. So now we have the internals, we have the screen itself, and again be very careful. Very easy to break it, so don't go harsh on it. Don't go putting it down on any surface where there's anything that might dig into it. Make sure you've got a clean flat surface. So next thing then, we turn it over. Now there was one extra screw there which I've already taken out for the stand, and one here. But we still have a few screws we need to take out before we carry on, including the nuts which hold on the D-subs and the DVI. So if I just grab a screwdriver and take that one out. And that one. then it should actually just lift off like this. Now when you do this, do be very, very careful, because there are ribbon cables underneath that you have to loosen off before you can lift the back off completely. They are stuck to the back of the LCD, so again, be very careful. I've already managed to loosen them off, so you can see where they're stuck down there, and they were stuck to the back of this originally. So that's off. And we have the ribbon cables. If I first of all then come here, you'll see this is the power supply going to the LCD screen. Then you have the switch gear for the settings and the power switch, and then the actual feed for the LCD is this ribbon cable here. So do be very, very careful that you don't damage any of that by twisting it or crimping it in any way. So the next thing we need to do then is to get this cover off here so we can get to the power supply underneath. Now, as I said, you have to take off the two nuts here for each of these ports. Then you can lift up the power supply, being careful of those ribbon cables, and you can see underneath there are some more screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the power supply itself is situated here, so we're going to take them all off and we'll have a little look to see what's what. Already, I don't know if you can see in the camera itself, I don't know if it's picking it up, but there's a darkened patch just there. It's green, of course, but there's browning as if it's burnt a bit just there. So I imagine that's where the problem's going to be. Let's get this up, taken apart. It's a good idea to keep the screws in order as well, so you know where they go back in, because sometimes they're different lengths or different sizes and you don't want to put the wrong screw in the wrong place, or you may do even more damage. So that's off. We turn that back over. Now will it come off, or am I missing something? It should just, oh, that one's popped out. Tell you what I'm going to do, I'm going to just release the power cable there. I should be able to do this just by gently prising up with the nails either side, and then we can take this out, and there you can see that's the transformer side of things, I think. I'm not a great electrician, I'm not E-Vlog or Big Clive or anything like that, but I have done a little bit of electronics in my time, back in the CB days, many years ago now. Let's see, just try and take this ribbon out for now. Let's see if I can get this one out. Usually they just pop out. These, that's the type of thing you don't want to do. And as ever in all my videos, I will leave that in so you can see my mistake, so you don't do it. Of course, over the years, these become very, very brittle. And out it comes. So that's that one out, and there's one more on the side. Let's see if we can get that one out without damaging anything. So pull the little tab out, and out it comes. There we go. So we can now move that off a little to the side while we get the rest of this out. So this should just pop out. And I'm just going to zoom in a bit now, make sure it's in focus. Okay, so that's a little closer. Now, looking at it, you can see it all looks pretty good. But there's one thing just here. If you look, that's quite blown out. It's got quite a bit of crud on the outside of it, but the end of it as well is bursting outwards as if it's gone inside and it's expanded and is pushing the internals against the metal casing. So I think that is my problem. A little capacitor. Now this capacitor is a 25 volt 470 ohm, and I've already got some of these. So I bought some of these in preparation. As I said, I've already had this open once to check to see what it was. Now this is slightly different in size, but it's exactly the same. Turn it over, there we go. So we have 25 volt 47 ohm F25. So this should work. Now what I don't want to do is to desolder this from the board, because I may not get it right and I may damage the tracing. So what I intend to do is to just cut the 2 pins there, take the old capacitor off, and then solder the new pins onto there and trim it off. So let's get this cut off. First things first then, remember that the stripe there, the grey stripe, is on the inside, so it's pointing towards the power supply itself, and that denotes whether it's the positive or the negative side. So the grey stripe is the negative side. You need to put it on the right way around. So we'll just clip these two. And then hopefully this should just lift off. It is stuck down with something, I'm not sure what. I think I'm going to need a screwdriver here. I don't want to damage the board itself. There we go. So that's the gunge that they used to stick it down. You can see a little bit better perhaps how that's blown out there. So what I'm going to do now then is match that up. That'll go on there. And then we're going to solder the 2 pins down, trim the excess off. So putting it all back together then is the reverse of taking it apart. Now I do remember that I damaged that little clip there when I actually took it out, the little bar across. I don't think that's going to matter much. I think it's there just as it's supposed to move out and in, so you can actually easily slide the ribbon cable in and out, but for some reason on this it didn't want to move. So I'm going to put it back first of all into the metal casing, and then I'm going to put the screws back in. Remembering of course where they came out, and you can check the video later if you wanted to make sure I've got them in the right place. That one didn't want to go in there. Let's try that again. There we go. You should of course do this by hand as well, as you could damage your PCB using a power tool. There's 2. You could always use this video as a how not to do this video if you wanted to. So that's all the screws back in. Turn it over, and then you need to put the connectors in. So one, two, let's move down a little, I think. That's 3. And one more there. Then we need to get the ribbon cables back in. I'm going to start with the thinnest one. Which is for the switch gear on the front. And that goes in. No, there's a good question. Yes, it does. Goes in that way around. And then the little clip should just clip on to hold it in place. That's actually decided to open now. There we go. So that one is a pull-up. I'll show you that again so you can see it. That pulls up, and then this goes in to the slot. That clips down and holds it in place. This one doesn't do that. This one just seems to slide in. So with a little bit of a jump cut there, I realised it's exactly the same as that one. After all that fiddling, you lift up the little latch first, then you put in the ribbon cable and get it to slide inside. There we go. If I get it to slide inside, and clip the clip down, and it's in. As I said, I like to do this warts and all for you so you can see my mistakes and hopefully not repeat them. Power cable back in, and now it's ready for the back to be placed back on top. Put this in its place over here. That's ready. Just gonna get the back. And we put the back in its place. There are two screws there to hold it in. Not quite flat at the moment, so let's just jiggle it about until we get it right. No, still not right. Okay, so my battery sadly died on the camera. I should have checked that before I began. All I've done though is just put it all back together in the reverse order that you saw me take it apart. I just need to put the last part on, which is the trim. So we'll just fit that back in place. Just press it down, all clicks in, and then it's just a question of seeing if it actually works now. So let's get the power supply plugged in. And we've got blue light, which we had before, of course. Is when we press the blue button. Let's see if it actually comes on or not. And it looks like it hasn't worked. So there's obviously more damage in there that's been done by that blown capacitor than I've been able to repair. So one last try. Take that out again. Blue light comes on, immediately goes off. So yeah, there's a short there somewhere to earth, which is just draining it and preventing it to come on. So that's the end of that. Even though I failed to repair it, it's still worthwhile having a little look at it to see if I could repair it, and now you know how to take one apart at least, if not how to repair it. For now then, thank you for watching.